Yeah. Hey, everybody. This program is brought to us by JFCS, and I'm so happy to be virtually standing with all of you tonight. Heroes come in many forms, and I believe that each of you supporting a loved one with a disability through this pandemic makes you a hero. You are all my hero. Each of us has our own tale to tell through navigating this pandemic. For example, I cut my own hair this week, not a good result, but I hope each of you are coping and managing well. So my name is Cristy, and I'm a mom of 3 boys. My oldest, Matthew, has Fragile X syndrome, and lately he has been deemed an essential employee and has been working throughout this pandemic in the linen room at Lankenau Hospital. So we have had to social distance from him this whole time, and it's been really difficult for all of us. But that being said, I'm thrilled to be with you all tonight. And here we are joined by some incredible women who are helps facilitate the evening and answer some questions for all of us. The first is Diana Robbins, Ph.D. She is director of the AJ Drexel Autism Institute at Drexel University. She is in charge of this health center and this institute, which aims to understand and address challenges of autism through population level and community-based science in order to reduce disability and maximize quality of life for autistic people and their families. The Institute's research programs address risk and protective factors, early detection and intervention, and life course outcomes of persons with autism, as well as policy affecting access to services. Diana, you can wave to everybody, and I probably botched that up a little bit, so I apologize for that. Thank you. Next is Lisa Ney. Lisa is JFCS's Director of Services and Programs for Persons Living with Disabilities. And Deborah Borenstein. Deborah, she is the JFCS Director of Donor and Event Operations. So welcome, ladies. And I think you have something to say before I start asking some questions.
Yes, thank you, Cristy, very much.
Sure.
So I just wanted to say tonight we will be talking about the important topic of how to help folks with disabilities and their caregivers and family members during the time of COVID-19. But before we begin, I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge that in addition to the stressors we have all been feeling from this pandemic, we are now faced with an additional source of stress of what is happening nationwide and here at home in Philadelphia. We hope that our discussion tonight will provide some strategies to help reduce the levels of stress and focus on what is in our control and how we can all take care of ourselves and our families. Thank you, Cristy.
Sure, thank you. So our first question is involves distancing protocols. And we want to know, how are the distancing protocols affecting individuals with disabilities right now?
Okay, I'll start with that one. First, I just want to talk a little bit about the term social distancing. We're really trying to change the narrative to physical distancing. When you talk about people who struggle with socialization, it's really important that people know that they don't need to feel isolated. When you're social distancing, you can feel that you're socially isolated, but we can all be very social and connected to other people while staying safe and distancing ourselves. So I think that's just, first of all, language is important, and I just wanted to stress that point, first of all. In terms of a lot of the folks that we work with at JFCS, there's been a lot of difference in terms of how people have been affected. And Cristy, you said about your son, I agree. I think he is a true hero. We have a lot of folks who actually are on the front lines working, who are in hospitals, who are in grocery stores, making sure that things are running and that people are getting supplies that they need. And yeah, in my mind, they are true heroes. That's scary. it's scary for them and for their families to be out on the front lines during this whole time. And then others, as you know, are isolated at home in terms of, you know, they may have be at high risk and vulnerable. Their immune systems may be compromised, so they're at home and trying to remain safe. And we've provided a lot of services to really be able to help those folks through virtual programming and no contact food deliveries and things like that. Deborah will probably be right back. I noticed she just, got disconnected for a second, so she'll probably be right back. Many of our folks who have been living independently had to move to suddenly living with other family members to stay safe. And that creates a whole, you know, range of positive and negative things in terms of you're very independent. And then all of a sudden you're living with a family member who's weighing in about your every decision. So we have a real variety of things. I mean, people's have had to deal with abrupt disruption in their routine and daily lives. You know, some people aren't able to work now. Some people aren't meeting up with friends or family, and that's tough for people. I'll let Diana chime in.
Sure. I think you covered a lot of the issues facing young adults or adults. I tend to work a lot with younger children also. We really cover the full lifespan at our institute. And so thinking a little bit about younger children, sometimes it's really difficult to understand how the rules have changed. And if you are a person who generally is used to things being a certain way, it can really throw you off to suddenly have things be different. I know a lot of the children that we work with are not comfortable putting anything on their faces. And so the idea that if you want to go out, you have to wear a mask can be really challenging. There are some ways that family members can try to acclimate their children to wearing masks, but it's also sometimes the case that people just need to be accommodating and realize that not everybody has the ability to just put on a mask or stand in a certain place, follow a line on a floor that didn't used to be there, and just be a little bit accepting that people will do the best that they can.
Okay, so since many resources outside the home aren't currently accessible, how can we take what we do have to create opportunities for learning or social engagement?
So I can start with that one. And again, I'll focus a little bit on the younger end of the age spectrum and let Lisa think about some of the older individuals who might be on the call or their family members. I'm a big advocate of winging it. I really enjoy looking around at what's in front of you and what can you do with it. And so thinking about strategies to support the skills that individuals have been working on, or things that have already been mastered that you want to maintain. If you don't have the usual activities like going places is really important for learning social roles. There might be other ways of practicing these skills at home. So they might actually involve Zoom. So doing Zoom social engagements with other people, or just looking around the house at what you have, using everyday routines like meals or getting dressed in the morning, getting up and getting ready for school, even if you don't get to leave the house for school, and just using those daily activities to practice things. You can build in social conversation, you can build in math skills. So whatever the person is working on can be kind of adjusted using the things you have around you. Just to give one example, I have a middle schooler who had a birthday while we've been home on quarantine. And we invented a little scavenger hunt, hiding pieces of a present around the house with clues. And she enjoyed it so much that for Mother's Day, she made me a scavenger hunt. And I had to go around to find my Mother's Day present. And I was thinking about that. And that's a perfect example of a way that you could do something that's really fun. It's off the cuff, but you can build in whatever you want to work on. You can make the clues be pertinent to conversation skills, or different rooms in the house are where different types of clues might happen. And you can use those kinds of fun activities to just build in a little bit of skill maintenance or a little bit of learning without it really feeling like you're sitting down to work.
Love that. I love that example, Diana. That was great,
Yeah.
the scavenger hunt. So yeah, just to add a couple of things also for families. I mean, it's so important to give children independence, and there's a lot of opportunities for that now that everybody's home together, in terms of, you know, find maybe one thing that your child can be in charge of, whether it's, you know, counting to 20 when everyone's washing their hands, or taking out the trash, or whatever. It's really important to foster those kinds of skills. And for adults, yeah, a lot of things that we've been trying to do are really create virtual connectedness and communities for our folks, and creating structure around that. You know, I think it's really important that people know that, you know, at this time I have a group, at this time I have a group, at this time I'm eating, at this time I'm Zooming with families, family members. We have been having groups twice a day and have really seen how important it's been for people and for us too, to feel connected to everyone and to see faces and smile together and laugh together. And there's been a tremendous amount of creativity that has come out of that together. So there's also a ton of opportunities available right now. There's all kinds of free programming. There's online courses. There's trips to museums and watching them feed the animals at the zoo, or tours of museums around the world, or taking a hike somewhere, a virtual hike. So we're really encouraging, you know, to take advantage of these opportunities as much as possible.
Yeah, we've been setting up some Zoom calls with family for my son, and he is now obsessed. You know, when's the next one?
Oh,
It's
that's
just
great.
become a great activity.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it's really
I have to say, one thing that I've noticed from all of this is there's been a lot of advantages that, you know, due to this technology that thankfully we have, it's allowed a lot of opportunities for creativity and to reach people that we didn't necessarily reach before, and for people to reach each other. I mean, I'm now, for example, Zooming with family once a week, and, you know, maybe we had a short phone call once, you know, once a month or once every other week. And now it's like every week we're getting together regularly and seeing each other, and really we know more about what's going on with each other than we did before.
completely.
Yeah.
I agree with you. So we touched on routines a little bit, but obviously the routine and daily structure have been completely disrupted while we're all at home. So what do you suggest for helping to keep structure and routine in the mix here?
Okay, I'll start with this one. So I was actually reading an interesting article about the 3 R's, which I thought was very interesting, and reassurance, routines, and regulation. And I'll actually add a third one, which I think resilience goes in really well as in addition. You know, when we talk about reassuring, it's important to reassure ourselves and everybody else that, you know, hopefully we're going to come out of this on the other end, we'll be okay. And that, you know, for a lot of adults, you know, it's important to have information. Just getting the facts, sharing that information with people and how they can keep themselves safe is very important. For children, you know, adults reassuring them that it's their job to keep them safe as well. And routines, you know, we all function best when we have structure and routines in our lives. That's really important. It really gives a sense of safety and predictability. Just knowing that, you know, we're going to be able to go to the store and get our favorite food that we want, or our favorite snacks, our favorite chocolate in my case, knowing that we're going to have Netflix and be able to still see, you know, our TV shows on TV, that predictability goes a long way. And then regulation, you know, when we are all stressed, our bodies go into our stress response systems. So one of the things is really validating feelings and really making sure that we are validating everyone's feelings. Yes, it's okay to be concerned. It's okay to be worried, but remembering what we can control and what we can't control. Yes, I can control wearing a mask when I go outside. I cannot control how other people behave. And the other piece of regulation is doing self-regulation, and that's important for all of us, and to model that for others. But for ourselves, learning how to manage those anxieties and fears that we have, whether it's breathing or taking a walk or whatever. And then just remembering that we're all resilient, and you know, it's important to keep our mental health and our physical health intact during this, and doing the things that we need to do to have that. Diane, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks. So one thing that I would add is that it doesn't have to be that one person in the family creates routine or structure and that everybody else follows it. If the whole family can come together and contribute to developing those routines, and there's going to be new routines because we're not doing the things that we're used to doing. So I think that depending on where each family member is in their trajectory, how old they are, what their abilities are, trying to capitalize on the strengths of each person will end up with the best family structure possible. And it also takes a little bit of the strain off. If there's an adult in the household with multiple children, thinking about how many different people you have to figure things out for, and different children might have different needs. And so asking them to contribute to it will not only take some of the burden off the parent, but if each family member is part of the building of the new structure, I think it brings a certain kind of buy-in that you wouldn't have if somebody else were just going to impose something on you. Now you have to do this. And so I think that that can be a really important piece of kind of building these new routines and figuring out what works now in our new world. You know, I think for the first few weeks, there was a lot of trial and error. And now people have been home long enough that they're starting to realize that things that didn't used to bug them are starting to just get under people's skin a little bit.
Yep.
And so thinking about ways that your structure can also give a little bit of downtime without everyone in the same room, you know, working on something or even just watching TV together, but a little bit of spreading out so that you're able to kind of build into that structure a little bit of independence, even if you can't all go out of the house the way you used to. And the last thing for people who have one of those Alexa circles, my kids love talking to Alexa, and we've figured out that you can prompt her to remind you of things or set schedules for you, which can be kind of fun. Like you can surprise each other, like, oh, it's time to, you could put in something fun, like it's time to go watch a favorite TV show, or you could also use it for structure, like, okay, 5 more minutes of math and then we can put it away. And so if you have one of those, you can kind of use it for a little bit of entertaining structure.
Love that.
Great.
Love that
Yeah,
suggestion.
very good.
That's great. So do any of our viewers have any questions? You can please, you're welcome to ask, and you've got some amazing people here who will help you with anything you want. So in the meantime, I guess I'll move on to the next question. But if you have any other comments from the viewers or questions relating to some of the prior questions, jump in anytime. So we touched on this as well, but family members may be feeling the burden of the many roles while quarantining to cover the absence of teachers, therapists, and other people who are in their circle. How can they protect time just to be a family? Such an important question.
Right. I can start with this one.
Okay.
I think that, oh, my dog wants to be part of this Facebook. Sorry about that.
No
I do
worries.
think that it's really important not to undervalue scheduling fun stuff. I think that a lot of times people think, well, if I have to plan it and schedule it, is it really, you know, positive family time? But, you know, many of us schedule our date nights with our significant others. Even when our kids are old enough that we don't need a babysitter, which really requires advanced planning, we schedule things because that tells us when we're going to get into that zone where we can relax and put our feet up and do something fun or silly. And I have to say that something that I've been tuned into for a long time, when parents are taking on the roles of being coached to deliver interventions at home or being coached how to work through homework time in a more successful way, I think that there's a lot of value in that, and parents are experts on their children 100%. But if the parents are always in the role of doing a job, then when do they get to sit back and just be the parents? And I think it's really important to build that into your lives, even when right now you're feeling the void of some of those other professionals who were engaged on a daily basis with your family member, and know that it's okay, that not every moment is supposed to be a teachable moment. Some of them are just supposed to be fun moments.
Yeah, I agree with that very much, Diana. And just give yourself a break. I think that social media, one of the weaknesses of social media is that you tend to think that everybody else has got it together and everybody else, has figured it out. But I don't think that's really true. I wouldn't adhere to that at all. And just know that I don't think everybody has it figured out. And what Diana said, I think is really important. Build time in, it's important. Listen to what everybody wants to do. It might be something different for every member of the family. But it's really important to have that time and to be present. And if you can't be with family physically, to do it virtually and try to build it into your routine. I think that's extremely important. And I think that also you might create new family rituals out of this, which is something, brand new, some things that you've never done before might be now something that you start doing even after COVID-19. So take advantage of that.
That's true. I think we're going to learn a lot about each other from this extended period at home. And
yes,
you're right that some
Maybe
of these things will stick.
What, Cristy?
Yeah.
We didn't hear what you said.
Maybe it just also, can you guys hear me? My internet.
Yeah,
Something was wrong. But maybe it just affords a little bit of downtime, that we didn't always get before. And like a famous thing in our house, I remember when my son was small, I hated my husband because he would just come and hug and kiss him. And I'd be the one doing all this work with him. And it was exhausting. And I yelled at him like, you just get to hug and kiss him. And I have to do everything. So maybe it's just even playing field now. And everybody can just hug and kiss their kids a little more.
Yeah.
And maybe stop trying to fix it all the time. Maybe you just get a little more downtime.
Love that.
And again, any viewers have any questions? That's what everybody's really here for you guys. So maybe
I have one that I was gonna say, if you don't mind, just because somebody has put in 2 questions, the same viewer.
Oh, sure. I can't
so I would
see
like
them.
to, yeah, exactly. So I just wanted to interrupt just for a moment to ask this question because it's probably a very common question. That she has, a high functioning daughter. She's 28 and she's having a really tough time. She's lonely. So are there resources out there that, we can talk about for people looking to connect that are feeling isolated at home?
Yeah, sure. There's a lot of virtual groups out there for connecting people. At JFCS, we have them twice a day. And we're happy. Deborah, you're going to put up at the end, right, my contact information. So please feel free to get in touch with me. We would love to have people and find things for them to do. We're going to be also doing a lot of different community events for different, for example, we're having a summer smash, which will be fun with games and dancing virtually, of course, but that everyone can participate in. So we're trying to create opportunities to really connect people and build in some schedule and just community for everyone. So yeah, and a lot of other organizations are doing the same types of things, virtual groups and things like that. So please, we have tons of resources. Get in touch with us and we'd love to talk, see what we could do.
If there are opportunities also for not big group gatherings, but smaller, one-on-one or just 2 or 3 people from your circle.
Yeah, I know.
You want to get on Zoom.
ADD just started.
So things like there's a lot of online games for folks who enjoy playing games, whether they're board games or card games or Pictionary kinds of games. It's amazing what you can do from remote locations. There are even dance parties that I've heard of where everybody is listening to the music and dancing in their own living room, but it's on video. So you can watch other people if you want to, or you can just do your thing and not worry about what the other people are doing. And so it's not the same as going to a normal place that you're accustomed to, where you see certain people that you're expecting to see and you do certain activities, but creating these new opportunities, it can be a little hard. It can be a little scary, I think, for somebody who doesn't necessarily like trying something unfamiliar, but people might find that there's a lot of enjoyable parts to it.
I will also add that we have telehealth services at JFCS. We have counseling, which can be more individual for people. And in addition to that, we're doing, if you could tune into our JFCS Clicks, where we're giving a lot of opportunities for people to volunteer and be able to do things for other people, which is really helpful during these times as well. And we have an art therapist as well. If art is something that people enjoy, they could, just wanting someone to talk to and do art together. That's an option as well.
Tough times. It really is. I mean, I know how I personally feel, and I, have a bigger support group than a lot of the kids, obviously, and it's really very tough and very hard on the parents if that's, their kid's main resource for socialization. It's tough.
I just might mention also, sorry, Cristy, that
Sure.
we've partnered with other organizations in the community to start a support group for caregivers and family members. So I just wanted to throw that out there. You'll have my contact information. You can contact me. We have one group that's weekly for parents of children who are 17 and below. And then we have another caregiver support group for people with adult children. So just wanted to throw that out also if people are looking for that kind of support.
It's amazing. Such
just to throw one more thing. Just to throw
Please,
one more
Diana.
thing in there. I'm realizing I didn't do my homework and I'm not sure if they're doing anything virtual right now, but at our Autism Institute, we had started a fathers group because so often the majority of people who attend caregiver groups are the mothers, and it's not always easy to kind of find your footing in a group where a lot of people are different from you. And it was incredible to hear how that group was taking off and really, really meaningful. So if it's not happening virtually, we'll certainly resume when we're allowed to have people in a room together. So we're happy to share that information with your user base.
Yeah, we can, Deborah, you can send things out afterwards to people, correct?
Great.
Okay. So another important question concerns whether or not the kids will lose skills that they've acquired or any progress they've made now that they're not in their regular routines and at school. So that's such a disturbing thing, for parents. So what can they do to support their child's progress during this time?
Diana, do you want to take it or you want me to jump in?
Sure, I can start. I think the first thing that I would say is everyone is going to struggle with this, and we can cut ourselves a little slack as parents and caregivers and family members because there's only so much we can do from home. I am aware of the fact that we're not as productive as we were before we had this pandemic. Yes, we have more hours in the day because we're not commuting or doing other things that were time consuming, but our mental capacity, I think, is also absorbed by what's happening in the world. And so the same may be true of your family members who have autism or other disabilities. And even if it's not directly impacting them, just the changes in routines and the change in the people that are coming in and out of their lives is enough to make an impact. And so it's okay if people's learning pace is slowing down or even staying steady. And you can try strategies to maintain skills and not lose too many things that you've worked very hard for. If you're an individual who's been working on some challenges, or if you're a family member, but even if there's a little bit of loss, it will come back. It will be so much easier to learn the second time, and people can not worry too much about that.
Takes a lot of the pressure off.
Yeah.
Hearing that. really special words.
Yeah.
And I mean, the people will be all catching up together as well. But one of the biggest struggles, I think, has been a lot of parents who have children that have IEPs, and transferring the IEPs to home is very difficult. And it's important to be in touch with any of the support services, which I'm sure people have already done now that we're 2.5 months into this. But schools are supposed to be supplying the resources that you need to be able to continue the IEPs and maintain the skills that are necessary. So be in touch with teachers, be in touch with the support. Some people don't have the supports coming into their homes now. There's a lot of advocacy lines that people can call, and parent advocacy lines that you can call to get help and suggestions for the best ways to do that as well.
Thanks, Lisa. And again, anybody have any questions? Now's your time to ask. Happy to help. But my last question I have is, can you make suggestions for ways to handle the stress while we're in quarantine?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very important to not be too stressed out. It's easy to say because we're all very stressed, but just to give yourself a break. I think that's really important. I think we've talked a lot about that in our groups, in terms of our virtual groups, about helping people, laughing, sharing things, to really be able to have community right now is really helping to de-stress. I think also getting outside is really important. Serotonin really helps to create, the sun, really helps to create serotonin in our brains, which relaxes us and decreases anxiety. And it also creates melatonin, which helps people to sleep better. So get out and be in nature. Personally, I think this is something I've discovered a lot more, and I think it's really important to even work in a walk every day, even if it's at the same time every day, but get outside, do things, learn how to really decrease your anxiety, find something that is self-care for you. And it could be different for everybody, but find something that works for you, whether it's taking a walk or cooking something, or deep breathing, mindfulness.
Music has been nice too.
Music is great. Artwork is great. All of those things.
Yeah.
And that's something we're trying to provide in our groups. We do a lot of music and a lot of art, a lot of movement as well. Diana, did you want to add?
Sure. Lisa, I love that you said to find what works for you. I've been thinking about this, and what relaxes a person is not a one size fits all. An example, I know a lot of people love meditation. They find it so meaningful and it totally changes their world. It would stress me out if somebody told me I had to meditate, because it doesn't fit me. And so people who are living in a household together, you might have different things that will work for you, and figure out ways to honor each person's de-stressing. Even if it wouldn't work for you, it might work for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I want to say, and again, speaking from some personal experience, people who are accustomed to spending a lot of their time caring for other people often forget to also take care of themselves. And this is so important, especially in this time where we may not have all of the resources available to us, that caregivers realize that it's so important to take some time to do their own self-care and not always focus on everybody else in the household. Right. And it's not selfish. If you run yourself dry, you won't have anything left to give other people. So taking that time to recharge is really, really important.
And modeling that for other members of your family is important too.
Right.
Yeah.
I need to work on that one myself. I was telling somebody that I make a little progress and then it kind of slips back. And then I have to, often it's because I'm telling somebody else, are you doing anything to take care of yourself? That it reminds me, okay, what am I doing? So it's, don't beat yourself up that you're not going to be able to do it all the time, or not every day, or maybe not even always every week.
The world's not going to end if you didn't meet your expectations for the day, tomorrow's a new day.
Love that.
Absolutely.
Love
Yeah.
that advice. And I think we have some questions.
I do. One question we have is, how might a person who is on the spectrum understand the concept of a pandemic?
Good question.
There are some really good resources that people have been pulling together. I've been amazed if you Google social stories about pandemic, you'll find things that have been written for many different levels of understanding. And often they have, simple illustrations to help individuals for whom the visual supports are really meaningful. And you can also create your own. If you don't find something that's the right fit for your family members' understanding, I love how flexible social stories are, and you can create them and you can slightly change the name of the main character and it works. It's amazing. So I would take advantage of some of the amazing resources out there on the internet. There are a lot of nonprofits out there that have been putting these up, and they all make them freely available. You don't have to be a member, you don't have to pay, and you can find these resources.
Yeah, there are a lot of people that really don't understand what's happening and why they can't be working or be with their friends, and it's very difficult. And Diana, you mentioned a lot of really good tools. I think that's very important. And just trying to explain in, the most appropriate language that the person can understand is really important. That we have to do this right now. It's important to stay safe. Yeah, you're going to get back to work. It'll just take some time, and just reassuring and really trying to help them to understand.
Yeah.
The next question I have is, how can we help people living with disabilities be able to channel their resiliency skills?
That's a good question. I think practicing them, and that's something that we do a lot in our groups, is really trying to practice these resiliency skills. We talk a lot about hygiene, getting a good sleep, getting outside in the sun a little bit, making sure you do have routine sleep and routine eating. It's really important to take care of your physical health as well. We talk a lot about mental health and how we can really take care of ourselves. Even, calling a friend on the phone or virtually is important, just to feel that you're not alone, that you're with other people, that you can share and talk to other people and feel that connectiveness. So we really try to help people to continue to practice those skills on a regular basis. Diana, would you like to add something?
I would say, thinking again about how some days might be more challenging than others, making sure that you're not assuming that if you had a bad day, they're all going to be bad days. That's the amazing thing about resiliency. You can have a setback, you can have a moment when something didn't go the way you had intended it to, and the next one will go better. And so being a little forgiving, I think, of yourself is an important tactic. And knowing when you can lean on other people, even if we can't have the physical get-togethers, leaning on people by Zoom or by text or however we can do it, talking over the fence with a neighbor, can be a meaningful opportunity to kind of give yourself a little bit of that recharge.
I have one more question. We talk a lot about helping people living with disabilities through this pandemic, but how can people living with disabilities help their families and friends who are struggling during this time, or the community in general?
I love that.
Yeah.
One of the things that we talk about in our office is not just doing things for people with autism or for family members living with autism, but what amazing strengths and skills do autistic individuals bring to the community. And so I would say, actually, there's a lot of strengths that the people on this on this Facebook Live, might be thinking about their own skills, their own strengths. People might be thinking about it for their family members. I would really capitalize on some of the opportunities to let your family members show you what their strengths are and what their skills are. And it may be very different from one person to another, but they all make contributions. So somebody who's a little bit more unemotional or unflappable might be able to stay calmer when something isn't going in a social direction, right? You may be feeling a little more isolated and somebody else might point out the silver lining to you about that. You may be missing some of those like specialty restaurants and stores that you would go and get things from, and a family member may be able to point out that, you know, their favorite thing is something that we can do right here in the house. And so I would really encourage people to think about what the strengths are that everybody brings. And we all have some challenges and we also all have some strengths.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. One of the things we see with our adults a lot is that they want to give back to the community and want to feel valued and important members of the community. And right now, many of them are giving to others. They're thinking about others. They're creating cards for other people and trying to find ways that they can, you know, be there for others. And I think that's really wonderful.
That was the last question that I had. So I just wanted to share real quick the contact information should anybody want to reach out to JFCS for support during this time. This is our phone number. So you can contact us through the phone number and get information about the groups that Lisa talked to or any of the other services that she referred to. And for other items that are specific to COVID-19, there is the link as well. And that's all I have.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to come and talk with you. It's really been a pleasure. And I hope that we have opportunities to work together.
Thank you, Diana. We appreciate it. And thank you, Cristy, for moderating.
Great.
Thank you, Cristy.
You guys
Thank you, everyone.
So knowledgeable. Thank you. It was so helpful and amazing. So thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Signing off. Goodbye.